The vampire counts march forth.
Hello and welcome to another Total War Warhammer guide. Today we are looking at the big baddies of the Vampire Count army. That is the unit of Vargheists, it's the Terrorgheist and the Vargulf. They are some of the biggest, scariest units that you'll have in your Vampire Count's army. They are some of the biggest damage dealers, some of the biggest tanks. So we're going to discuss the differences, the attributes of each unit, and the differences of how you'd use each three, and then we'll have a little fun battle and discuss how you'd use them on the battlefield. So first off, we have the small unit of Vargheists. Now, Vargheists are basically like, you can sort of consider them sort of flying trolls a bit. They are large units. They only come in units of 9. They've got 4,400 hit points. They are a damage dealer, and they have frenzy. These are the two most important parts of it. Frenzy means that while their leadership is high, while they're winning combat, everybody's happy, they do extra damage. So it's very important that you keep these guys with their flanks covered, nobody charging them in the rear, maybe even near your leader, all that sort of thing. They are your damage dealers. They do not survive that long though, so you've got to be very careful with how you use them. You can't just throw them into any fight and expect them to do well. So they only have 10 armor. That's one of the biggest parts about them. Their leadership is 60, which is pretty good for an undead unit. Speed of 92, which is fantastic. Melee attack of 32, defense of 24, weapon strength of 100 with 25 armor piercing, which is quite nice, and a decent charge bonus of 24. So they do cause fear, which lowers leadership of units they're fighting. They're also undead, so rather than routing and running away from combat when they're losing, they just start taking more and more damage. Next up, we've got the Frenzy, which is a constant buff that lasts just on themselves, and it gives them plus 8 melee attack, plus 4% charge bonus, and makes them immune to psychology. So any other units that cause fear, tries to get them to run away, which they're not going to do anyway. They're vampire counts. They just want to fight, basically. They are fighting machines. But like I said, the 10 armor is the big scary flag when you think about this unit. Next up, we're going to look at the Terrorgheist, which is like a big flying rat thing, really. Very pretty unit. He has 5,200 hit point. He's armoured, meaning he's going to take less damage from non-armour piercing weapons. He's armour piercing himself with those claws and beak. He's also anti-large, and this is the biggest factor when considering how to use this guy, is that he does more damage against units that are horse size or bigger. And he also causes terror, which, as well as causing fear, which lowers the leadership, he causes terror, meaning that they will rout for a short time, and that's really helpful. It just gives you a little help to the combat. Next up, they're undead, like we talked about before. They have regeneration, much like a troll, so they replenish. That is not even a word. They replenish hit points over time, gradually, constantly, but they do have a flame weakness, 20% flame weakness. So any units that they're fighting against that do flame damage, even like the bright wizards and stuff, the fire wizards will wreck you. A well-placed fireball and stuff like that is going to do a crap ton of damage against these units. So steer clear of that. And they also have disintegrating, which is the advanced version of crumbling. But they are very, very good units. 80 armor, 35 leadership, which is pretty poor, so you need to be careful with them. Speed of 100, melee attack of 25. They also do poison damage, which debuffs the enemies. You can see their speed, weapon damage, vigor, and all that sort of thing. Melee defense of 34, weapon strength of 300, and it inflicts extra damage when fighting like bigger units. You can see weapon damage is 70, armor piercing is massive at 230, but they get a bonus versus large units of 40 plus. So, also they got 40 charge bonuses, which is not too bad at all. Next up, we're going to go for the non-flying kind, which is he's got something. He's going to pick. I thought he was going to pick it and eat it, and that was not going to be pretty. So the Vargulf has armor piercing, as we talked about before. He is very quick on his feet. He also has regeneration, much like the previous unit, but he has very poor leadership, 35 leadership. 4,806 hit points. He's a very tanky character with 40 armor, 35 leadership. Speed of 80, which is fantastic. Melee attack of 46, which is brilliant. Defense 36, and they have a weapon strength of 230. Armor piercing is 165, very nice indeed. And a really good charge bonus of 50. They also have regeneration, like we spoke about before, and they also undead, cause fear and terror. They are your 3 units, so they work in very different ways, rather. So we're just going to have a little mess about against some poor little Bretonians. I'll put them in a big unit, actually. So we'll talk about the Vargheists and how you'd use the Vargheist first. The Vargheists are a damage dealing unit, so you don't want them stuck in combat forever, especially if they've got decent leadership for a vampire count army, but you don't want them charged in the rear. Units that do a lot of damage are just going to rip apart this unit. You want to be able to engage with your other units first and then charge in these Vargheists, so they're not taking too much damage. You know, charge the flank. They're not taking too much damage themselves, but they're dishing out a shed ton of damage and finishing off a unit. You don't really use these as your frontline troops because they will get whittled down quite quickly. They'll still do a lot of damage, but they will whittle down quite quickly, and you don't want them losing too many numbers because their leadership will drop and then they'll lose their frenzy, which is their boost to their stats. Next up, we've got the Vargulf. Now, the Vargulf I would use as part of my main line, and the main reason for this is you need to keep him close to your general. 40 leadership is pretty shit, even for a vampire count army, but he does do a decent amount of damage, and he's very, very good. Regeneration is really helpful, so that's going to keep him in the fight a lot longer. And then, obviously, you've got the Terrorgheist, which is a fantastic damage dealer, and this guy goes after the units of trolls. It goes after anything cavalry or bigger. You know, a flank charge on a Reichsguard unit. This guy is going to tear them apart. Also, but you don't want to send him in as your front line. You want, with most of these undead units, you want to get your big soak units up. Like when I'm talking about soak units, I'm talking about zombies, skeletons, skeleton spearmen. Those big units of just not very fighty characters, but they're going to stay in the fight a long time. Once they're involved, then you charge in these guys. Obviously, I would keep him closer to my front lines as well, because that melee attack is poisonous, meaning that he's going to debuff, which helps all the units around him, you know, defeat the enemy. So let's just have a bit of a muck around here. We're just going to charge in one unit at a time, just see the charge and see how they do. My personal favourite of these, I do like the Vargheist, but they are so fragile. Like, we're going in against some spearmen at arms here. I like the old Vargulf. I like him plodding about, doing his damage. Here we go. This is going to be fun. Let's watch him. The Vargulf and the Terrorgheist are my personal favourite. Look at this. Oh my lord. As you can see, they cause an initial crap ton of damage. The enemy is scattered about. They've losing a decent amount of their number. But what you'll see is quite quickly how much damage my guys are going to take. These are only spearmen at arms. You know, although decent against what we're fighting, you know, for cost-wise, you can see we've done the same amount of damage here, and it's only ever going to get worse. Obviously, once we start crumbling and stuff like that, we're going to struggle. As you can see, we've taken a big, heavy loss now. So this is why you don't want to charge them in first. Unless, like, you can go after... These are quite good at going after units of infantry on their own, like a missile infantry, artillery crews, because they're quite quick and they can zip around a bit. That's quite useful. But I prefer to just have them just behind my front line, let the big units of zombies get engaged, and then whiz these around the flanks, the rears, picking off enemy troops, stuff like that. That's how I do it. As you can see now, we're crumbling away. Critical binding, damage sustained. They are just going to disappear. So next we're going to charge in. Go on, son. Here we go. He's getting a bit of a gallop going. Will he make it before they're all dead? Will he make it? I think they should be there. We're doing all right. They're hanging on. And then we'll send the old Terrorgheist over there. There he is. He's in. He's in. He's like a big bat that's had his wings clipped. That's what he very much looks like. As you can see, obviously fear and terror causing units really help break the enemy formation. And that has restored the morale of our Vargheist, so they've stopped crumbling because we're now winning combat. And we're just going to send in the Terrorgheist just to finish him off. Hello! Imagine this. Imagine fighting this. I would have already run away 10 minutes ago. There you go, guys. There's our Geists, 3 of the main big scary characters in the Vampire Count's army. Our guide, sorry. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe for more guides. We're going to go more in depth and do some fun stuff once we've finished all the unit guides and see them in more detail. But these are just mini guides to help new players out. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.